Hello there, IELTS students. Welcome to IELTS Podcast. You no longer have to worry, fret, or panic about IELTS because we are here to guide you through this test jungle. Enjoy these IELTS tutorials, and if you need more help or want to access the famous online course, you can visit us at IELTSPodcast.com. Topic: specific vocabulary, boosting your lexical resource. And today's topic is the impact of globalization. Hello there, my name is Ben Worthington, and today we are going to not only look at some of the pros, the cons of globalization, the cultural impact that globalization can bring. We're also going to look at some very powerful, useful vocabulary, but we're going to look at the beautiful type, which are collocations, which are basically two words with a higher probability of being found together. Using these in your speaking, in your writing, make you sound more natural because the listener is half expecting the next word once you start it. I'll go into more details about this in a minute. We're also going to look at complex sentence structures, basically conjunctions such as because, since, and thus, because these help you develop your arguments, which are insanely important. We will look at some model sentences and then look at some very advanced speaking part 3 questions and model answers, again using some of these collocations and vocabulary that we covered before. This class will be extremely valuable, not only because of what I just mentioned, but it's going to be useful for those students who suffer from my mind goes blank. Because I know this situation. A student will see a question about globalization, the mind will go blank, and they'll be like, what? Or, any other topic, and the mind will go blank. By listening to this tutorial, you'll have a broader idea of what globalization is, how you can write about it, the positions, the pros, the cons, the cultural impact, all of this, which is just like stacking the deck in your favor for passing the exam. Right then, if this is your first time listening to IELTS Podcast, well done to you. You have found one of the best resources online. We've been doing this now for over 10 years. I've been teaching for, we could say, around 15, 16 years. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know I've been doing IELTS for around 12 years. And I got into this because students were struggling, my own students, and I was struggling teaching IELTS. Could you imagine the embarrassment, the shame, the frustration? And I solved it by going and getting help, listening to experts, recording the interviews, releasing them, and getting to the point where we doing essay corrections. We are offering PDFs, and then eventually we transitioned to courses, and then again we've transitioned again to offering AI essay corrections, which you can find at IELTSPodcast.com. Let's jump into it. So globalization, cultural exchange have been a very key part of the last 30 years especially. We're going to examine this, and we're going to look at the impact it has on cultures and societies, and we're also going to look at a grammar point, as I just mentioned. Let's jump into this grammar point. Now, when we have got our position, so we've reviewed the question. I'm jumping straight into IELTS Task 2 now. We've looked at IELTS Task 2. We've got our position. We know what we're going to argue about. We know what direction our body paragraph is going to take. Now, the key part is getting a clear position, and then we run with it. We develop it. And we do this by employing conjunctions such as because, since, thus, and therefore. And what this does is it clearly links causes with their effects in a very coherent way. So, a very basic example would be globalization causes an, globalization often, let's hedge this, globalization often causes a distribution of ideas and businesses, for example. This is because global businesses want to expand, and they do this by entering foreign markets and introducing new ideas and concepts and products into foreign markets. Since these ideas are new, they can sometimes cause a cross-pollination with the local receiving country. Okay, so with that, we just had one basic position, and then we developed it further and further with using because and since. Quite straightforward. The key here, though, is just to get your position crystal clear from the beginning, and then ask yourself why. And then when you're answering that, you can use because and since. I actually sent a student the song Salt it's called Why. And she said she was listening to this song while she's writing her essays, because she had this issue of getting her position but then just deviating it and going off on like random topics. And I was like, no. Vasundra, stick with this one idea and then ask yourself why. Why, as the song goes. So anyway, this is, And she said she was listening to this song while she was developing her ideas, just to make sure to stick to the topic. And just as I said before, sticking to it, one idea, developing it, even if it's the most simplest idea, will help you build a more coherent argument, a more coherent paragraph. Let's have a look at some of the pros and the cons regarding globalization. This is extremely important for those students who struggle with ideas, because it's just a matter of filling your head up with the content related to globalization. So let's have a look. Pros. Cultural diversity is enriched in metropolitan hubs due to international interactions. Wow, that's a bit of a mouthful. Increased understanding and tolerance among different cultures. These are quite assumptions, because sometimes the opposite happens depending on the culture and the actual people settling in the new country. It's quite crazy. Technological innovations spread more rapidly across borders. Global cooperation on environmental issues is facilitated. Artistic collaboration increases, leading to new forms of creative expression. Educational opportunities expand through international programs. This is basically a lot of you guys. This is you listeners. You're responsible for this one. All the students going to Canada, Australia, the UK, and bringing over your culture, your ideas, your thoughts, and injecting them into the UK, Australian, Canadian education system. Cross-cultural dialogues enhance diplomatic relationships. Wow. Access to a broader range of foreign products increases consumer choice. This is briefly what I mentioned before about companies expanding. Health innovations and practices can be shared globally. This is because I'm just going to develop this one now. Health innovations and practices can be shared globally. This is because when new cultures interact with existing cultures, there may be gaps of technology or ideas that haven't been filled by the receiving culture. This is clear with the advent of acupuncture being from China, originating from China, being exported globally, and therefore increasing the range of opportunities for those searching for alleviation of health problems such as asthma or even hay fever. Okay, and that can be developed even further with a concrete example of how acupuncture services are solving a lot of hay fever issues in countries such as Spain and the UK. Okay, so just one very brief example of how we can develop it. I'm going to keep going back to this development so we don't forget about it. The cons. Cultural homogenisation. I butchered the pronunciation of that. Even being a native speaker, it's one of those words I haven't used for a long time. Cultural homogenization may lead to the loss of local identities. This basically refers to, one example of this is the Anglo-Saxon cultural machine that goes in and steamrolls a lot of local cultures. And this was common, this was quite common in Spain, and especially the elder generation, the older generation were concerned about Father Christmas, this Anglo-Saxon idea coming in and bringing presents on the 25th, when their traditional Christmas was on the 6th of January. But now they had to start doing 2 Christmases because of this barrage of Anglo-Saxon movies basically coming out of the US, celebrating Christmas on the 25th with Father Christmas and all the other stuff, and now they had 2 Christmases, largely thanks to the USA. Another one, small communities might struggle to maintain traditional values. That's exactly what I said. Even though Spain's not a small community, it's still facing this barrage, this cultural export from the US and the UK, and these which basically originate from Northern Europe, practically invading this this very strong culture. So if the Anglo-Saxons are doing this to the Spanish culture, which is insanely strong, imagine what they're doing to other cultures. So got off on a tangent there. Next point, next con of globalization. Rapid changes can lead to social unrest and cultural clashes. An example doesn't really come to mind there, so I'm just going to move on. A dependency in global systems makes local economies vulnerable. Here we could definitely talk about the US dollar and the impact it has on smaller economies. And this is a very prevalent fact about globalization. It's usually US dollar denominated. And over-reliance on technology can diminish traditional skills and knowledge. Here we could just talk about, again, this barrage, this invasion of American companies like Facebook and Amazon and Google, and diminishing local skills, because now there's no chance a smaller country such as Hungary, such as Slovenia, such as Bhutan, are ever going to build a search engine or a social media network on the scale of Google or Facebook. And side note, using companies, large companies, multinational companies, are a great way to demonstrate points in your examples. Increased global mobility can lead to brain drain in less developed areas. I was talking about this the other day, and how the UK NHS, the National Health Service, recruits abroad and is basically getting all these experts, nurses and doctors, trained by countries like Nigeria and Hungary and Brazil, Argentina, whatever. And the NHS is recruiting them and then benefiting and just picking them up. And the UK never paid for these skills, but it's still benefiting from them. And it's almost like the lesser developed countries are subsidizing the UK health system. And this is like one of the big drawbacks of globalization for the smaller countries, and it's a massive advantage for countries such as the UK, and it's incredibly unfair, but we're not going to solve it on this podcast. I'm just going to mention it. So these are some of the drawbacks of globalization. Let's have a look at some topic-specific vocabulary related to this topic. Cultural diversity. We could very easily talk about cultural diversity in the NHS because of the recruitment practices of the NHS recruiting abroad, because we don't have these skills in the UK. Global cooperation, technological innovations. I was talking there before about Bhutan not being able to develop, hypothetically Bhutan or Nepal or whatever country, not being able to develop technological innovations because of Google and Facebook monopolizing that environment, but it's also, they're also bringing free search and free social media and free packaging and all these innovations to the country. And would the country have these if the American companies weren't invading with these companies? I don't know. So again, it's quite a tricky topic. Cultural homogenization. So maybe in 50 years, the 6th of January, the Catholic Christmas Day has disappeared, and it's all on the 25th. I'm just giving you an idea here, and it's all Anglo-Saxon. Everybody supports the LA Lakers and Manchester United. I'm just going off on a tangent here, but I'm just giving you an idea, because some people are genuinely worried about losing their own control, largely due to this Anglo-Saxon cultural machinery, which is incredibly powerful. Traditional values disappearing, environmental degradation, cultural commodification. That's a beautiful term, going back to this Anglo-Saxon cultural machine I keep mentioning. Brain drain happening to countries subsidising the NHS in the UK. So on and so forth. Let's have a look at some model sentences. Because of global cooperation on climate change, significant advancements have been made in renewable energy technologies. Beautiful. Technological innovations have spread rapidly as countries collaborate more closely on research and development. International programs in education have led to, can you see how we just link it there? It's a great little phrase. International programs in education have led to an increase in cultural exchange among students. Artistic collaboration across borders enables a fusion of styles that enrich the global art scene. Nothing comes to mind there. Art is not my area of expertise. Now, this is a classic example, like, okay, my mind goes blank. I've got no idea about artistic collaboration across borders. What's the next step? How do I solve this? If I'm serious about passing IELTS, I don't want any topics where my mind goes blank. So in this case, what you do is you jump online, go to Google, and you put artistic collaboration across borders. And you just read a quick article about it, extract some vocabulary, and bang. Now you've got a rough idea about artistic collaboration across borders. Traditional values are often compromised because of the influence of global media. Again, personally, nothing comes to mind. And I'm really trying to think of an example. So in this case, what do I do? I jump on Google, read an article about traditional values being compromised because of the influence of global media, and research it, pull some vocabulary, pull some sentences out of there, put it in my notebook, job done. Brain drain can occur because talented individuals often move to more developed countries for better opportunities. That's exactly what I was saying about the NHS. Brain drain. Okay, this is a very, very common accusation against globalization. Final one. As societies become more interconnected, cultural homogenization, that's the word, becomes a growing concern. That was what I was talking about before, about Father Christmas dominating the festive Christmas period instead of the Three Kings and all of the rest, all the other celebrations as well. It's not just Spain that's getting bombarded by Father Christmas on the 25th. Other countries definitely are as well. Let's have a look at speaking, part 3, questions and model answers. Why do you think cultural exchange is important? Cultural exchange is crucial. Can you see how we modified the synonym there? It didn't use the same vocabulary we just heard. We modified it. That's a higher level skill. That's what we go into in our course. Cultural exchange is crucial because it broadens understanding and fosters empathy. among different societies. Here I would have hedged that, and I just said can often broaden understanding and fosters and can sometimes foster empathy among different societies. By experiencing cultural diversity, individuals can appreciate the richness of human cultures and the benefits of global harmony. Not bad. Should governments regulate cultural content in media to prevent homogenisation? This is a good answer because we start with a conjunction, which is a higher level. Let's go. While it's important to preserve cultural diversity, governments should be cautious not to impose strict regulations on media content, as this could stifle free expression and cultural exchange. Balance is key to protecting cultural identity while promoting global understanding. Not too bad. What role do technological innovations play in cultural exchange? What a horrible pronunciation. I wanted to start with technical and it morphed into technological. Let's do it again. Technological innovations have revolutionized how cultures interact and share ideas. Through technology, people can instantly connect across the globe, which enables a faster and wider spread of cultural practices and knowledge. Here's a good opportunity. Here's how I would improve this answer. I just insert an example. Through technology, people can instantly connect across the globe. This technology includes apps such as WhatsApp, Viber, TikTok, Facebook, and these enable a faster and wider spread of cultural practices and knowledge. Okay? You see how it just strengthens the argument by just putting a real-world example in there. How has globalization affected traditional cultures? Globalization has led to both the spread and erosion of traditional cultures. This is what let me just carry on. Because this is the linking, the development. While some aspects are preserved through global interest, others are overshadowed by more dominant cultures, leading to cultural homogenization. For example, in Spain, XYZ, and then I would just develop it a little bit further. Why would I develop this one and not something about art? Well, I'm going to develop this one because I know the subject. I can talk about it with confidence. If the examiner had asked me about art, I would have said something like, imagine the question, how has globalization affected art globally? I would have said, to be honest, this isn't something I know a lot about, but I'm guessing that because globalization spreads ideas and cultures, I'm assuming the same would happen with art, and I'm guessing art styles from various countries would be introduced into other countries, and I'm assuming that it might lead to hybrid art forms, or just a melting pot of ideas. And because art does rely on creativity, I'm guessing it would be beneficial. But I'm not an expert on this, so this is just my estimation. Okay? So there, I'm just bluffing or blagging my way through it, but I'm doing it with some, we know globalization, spread of ideas and cultures. Let's apply this to art, and we know, as I just said, relies on creativity. So, if you've got a rough idea, as I said before, I don't know anything about art, but I'm not going to stop and say in the exam, I don't know anything about art, I'm sorry. No, you have to push on, you have to guess, because you can't just stop there. You've got to say something, even if it's just a guess. You say it's a guess, you say it's an estimation, and you're still going to do well, assuming you pull it off. You're still going to do well because you're guessing, you're hypothesizing, and these are higher language capabilities. Right, that's it from me. I'm wishing you a beautiful day. I'm wishing you all the best in your IELTS exam. If you're struggling with this, then go to IELTSPodcast.com, get on our newsletter. We've got plenty of materials and tools to help you move forward. That's at IELTSPodcast.com. We don't run advertisements, and we don't charge for these services, for these free tutorials. So all I ask in return, if you did get value from this, all I ask in return is that you share it with a friend, post it on social media. That'd be extremely helpful. Thank you. Have a great day and all the best with your IELTS preparation.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.